grow now the last couple of years. The first couple of seasons, first year, he looked a little heavy for me, a little on the slower side. Last year, we saw him break out a little bit and really be the guy that can go up and get any pass and just out-muscle you for a pass. We saw him do it a few times. The Stanford game, the touchdown that he came down with, another game late in the season, and the bowl game, he did it again. The guy is just a beast. And Jalen Robinson is maybe one of the quicker guys we have on the roster, coming over from Oklahoma. Yeah, I was almost about to say Alabama. Oklahoma. The guy is quick, man, and to have him there on the inside in the slot, I feel bad for defenses. I don't know how they're going to cover these three guys, and we haven't even got to the running backs. But yeah, these wide receivers and the backups.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Is I don't even know if these are the first three that tried out there. Right? You have Jacob Harris, who again love the guy to death. He obviously had some challenges last year, consistently catching the ball. Seemed like a guy, from what we see, like stride for stride, people tell us he's the fastest person on the team, which is crazy to think about. But he's a huge, humongous human being, right? He had 19 catches last year, only 1 touchdown pass. So it seems like his route last year was the bomb or nothing else. But 6'5", 211, a big dude. Then we got some of the young guys who we saw in spurts last year. We have Amari Johnson, Ryan O'Keefe, and Kavan Ahmad. We saw those guys in spurts last year. Amari Johnson, I think, caught a touchdown pass in the first game of the year against FAMU. I think he caught it from Quadri Jones. And I don't know if I ever buy into these things, Mike, but here's something that I always keep an eye on. This may be a really dumb way to look at it, and I apologize in advance if you're going to laugh me off the phone here. But typically UCF obviously wants to, take care of the guys who are, they're good players, they're better players. And every offseason, obviously when you get to the program, you get there as a freshman, you get kind of the short end of the stick when it comes to jersey numbers. In this offseason, Ryan O'Keefe got to switch from, I think it was number like 83 to number 4, which is usually a coveted number, single jersey digit number. We've seen this a bunch happen over time, right? It happened from Traquan at 80, he went to 4. We've seen this before. Otis had 26, he went to 2. And so it kind of caught my eye that we let Ryan O'Keefe go from 83 to 4. Makes you wonder if the team has some plans for Ryan in advance. I think he did get a couple of snaps last year as well. So I don't know. Maybe it means nothing, but Ryan O'Keefe switches jersey to a small number, which you don't hear very much. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention 2 new guys. One guy by the name of Josias Stretch Creedle, who wears number 13, by the way. We see some photos of this guy, 6'4", 195, just a raw athlete from the high school ranks in Georgia. And we have Deontay Marks, who is a transfer coming in from Florida. We don't yet know, again, about his eligibility, but Deontay Marks is another guy who potentially has an opportunity. And that's just, again, the 3 deep. I could go even further than this, Mike. So those are 6 names alone right there that could be also playing wide receiver.
Incredible list of talent we have there. Speed. You said it. Jacob Harris, we have been told by more than one guy, I believe, that he is the fastest guy on the team. And they've had races to prove it. And people don't want to believe it. Maybe it's just his long strides don't look as fast, but the guy is fast. And these other guys, Stretch Cradle, we've heard a lot about. In an offseason where we haven't heard about too much, we've heard a lot about Stretch Cradle. I mean, maybe it's just his size. Maybe it's just a cool name, because that is a cool name for a wide receiver, Stretch.
It is.
So maybe that's part of it. But these wide receivers, man, just speed all over the place. Ryan O'Keefe was the kid that set records in high school track, or is that Kavan Ahmad?
No, that's sure. O'Keefe, yep.
You want to read into switching numbers? It's a good conspiracy theory. I can go with you on that one. I don't know if it is really any validity to it. Maybe just a kid likes a number, it became open, and you think UCF would say, no, you can't have that number because we don't plan on playing you much?
But if you suck, do you think they'd give you that number, a coveted number? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Jalen Robinson walked in and got number 1 pretty quickly. Marlon Williams, I think he wore number 17 his first year. He got down to number 6. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading way too much into this stuff. I think Randy Charlton, wasn't Randy Charlton like number 90-something his first year, and he's done number 5. If you look at just the numbers 1 through, the smaller jersey numbers, it seems like those are the guys who typically get a lot of run. Again, I could be reading into that, but yeah, either way, it just the load of talent. I think the only questions we have here are Gabe Davis was that guy whenever Dylan kind of got in a bind, and he just needed to make one read and throw. Gabe was that guy for him. He was like a security blanket. He just knew that he would come up and catch the ball. Who's that guy going to be this year? Because Trey Nixon seems like he's a speedster down the end of the field. Jalen Robinson at his height, his size, he's 5'9", 163. Mike, I think you are taller and outweigh him. So I think that's a guy. He seems like a speed guy. So is that Marlon Williams? Is that Stretch Creedle? Is he that guy? Is Jacob Harris going to run more than a go route? Who's that guy that we're going to be able to know that we can count on a 10-yard pass when we need 7 for a first down? I think that's going to be the really interesting thing from these guys. They're all speedsters. They're all athletes, but route running and, who can get open when, we need to make one big play.
As much as I love Gabe Davis, and imagine him coming back, he had another year of eligibility, yeah. But as much as I love him and how great he was, and it was good for Dylan as a freshman to have that security blanket, but it may be even better for him to not have the guy that he looks to right away every time, and the defense knows that they're going to him right away. Maybe just having this balance of all these guys, it may actually help Dylan Gabriel just go to the regular progression of the play and just go to the open receiver. Man, remember I hit Schneider with that question when we had him on. He played with all those great receivers, and I asked him, who's your favorite receiver, and his answer was whoever's open, and that's who's going to be. That's what Dylan Gabriel's whole motto should be this year. And he has so many guys to choose from. He doesn't have to lock in on one guy. He doesn't have to always depend on Gabe Davis to be there. He has all these guys, and just whoever's open, that's who he's throwing the ball to.
And by the way, we didn't also mention Otis Anderson, who spent a ton of time at receiver last year as well. So needless to say, I think that there's going to be a ton of opportunity for these guys to be in the field. It's going to be really exciting to see what combinations that Heupel can come up with, and who kind of emerges as the guys. But just this list of names coming back and some of the potentials that we have in the young guys has got to make you excited about the wide receiving core, which was probably maybe the most exciting group, except for this one, Mike, because this next position group is another one that I don't know how the hell there's enough football to go around for all these guys. And I'm talking about the running back position. So, again, typically UCF employs a one-back set, so there's no true fullback. I think that's been gone, obviously, since the old Larry days went out the window. So Otis Anderson is the Swiss Army knife here. He's the wild card because he obviously could line up a receiver. He could start at the running back position. So Otis is this guy that he's just a starter. I don't know what position it's going to be, but he's going to be on the field in some form or fashion when the game kicks off, right? So we know Otis is going to be there. He'll probably flex around a little bit. So if you think about, okay, if Otis is receiving, who's going to be in the backfield? Mike, I got to think it's Greg McCrae's job to lose. I know he had a rough year last year with injuries and wasn't on the field as much as he wanted to be, but we saw what he could put up, 2 years prior. We know what kind of back he is. He looks like he's come back a little bit bigger, added some muscle to his frame. He was actually mic'd up for one of the scrimmages. He talked about how he'd been squatting all offseason trying to get some big quads in there. So I got to think Greg McCrae is RB1, again, if Otis Anderson is kind of the utility guy.
You would think.
Uh-oh.
But
I wouldn't think.
But there's so many guys to choose from. McCrae was everybody's darling after that 18 season. And what a season. He is the tactician of the running back groups. He's the patient guy, the guy that it looks so cool when you see the replays of how he just waits for the block and the holes to open up and then he goes. And he did it so many times in 18. But there's so many guys to use back here. I don't know if we can just call him. And just because he starts the first play of the game at running back doesn't mean he's the main running back because we just have too many guys.
Okay.
The list just goes on and on.
Well,
and the carries are going to get split.
Well, what is that list? So let's go over these guys. So obviously you have Greg McCrae. He had 529 yards rushing last year. Again, he was down with injuries for a handful of games. I think he missed like 4 or 5 games with a knee problem. Behind him, you have Bentavious Thompson. He had 604 yards on the ground. He's kind of a bigger, stronger, bruising back. He actually led the team in rushing touchdowns with 8, believe it or not. And then, Mike, out of nowhere, again, you don't hear a lot about freshmen in practices or young guys, I guess. But Heupel has made mention a couple of times, as did both Golesh and Anthony Tucker when they had a chance to talk. You're hearing the name Demarius Good thrown around a ton, and people are, the talk from coaches is that he's come back a completely different player. He's a guy that they don't even, he just grown leaps and bounds from last year to this year. He did not play a snap, I believe, last year, so I think he's a redshirt freshman by technicality here. Let me check that up really quickly while we're talking. He's listed as a redshirt freshman, so we still have 4 years of Demarius Good in our life. And then we went out and got this guy, Johnny Richardson. True freshman, 5'7", 175. And Mike, there are some people just raving about this kid's quickness, this kid's size. Again, in the mic'd up segment, I'm not sure if you saw it that Greg McCrae had, but him and Otis were having a conversation. They were talking about, man, I can't even see Johnny. All I know is that I see people missing him. I don't even know where he's at. And all of a sudden I turn around and he's outside of a pile because guys are just diving at him and they can't get this guy. He's another guy that's been mentioned a ton. So if you're scoring at home, the running backs could include Otis Anderson, Greg McCrae, Montavious Thompson, Demarius Good, Johnny Richardson. And by the way, we also have a transfer that came in, kid from Orlando originally, played quarterback Virginia, R.J. Harvey. He's come in as well. He, his eligibility thing will be another issue. And Trillian Coes is still there behind all those guys. I'm like, I don't know how the heck we're going to find enough footballs for all these dudes.
Yeah, an abundance of riches. It's going to be fun. And maybe we'll see a lot more two-back sets. Remember we used to always...
Yes.
Just call for it. We want to see Otis. Yeah, we want to see them both. And anytime we did it, it worked out beautifully. And defenses can't have answers for all these guys. It's impossible. And Otis, this is his senior year now. The guy's been great for the first 3 years. We got to see him on the field all the time. The guys, whether it's in the backfield or lined up in the slot or wherever, the guy's got to be out there for 80% of the snaps, I think. He's the mismatch nightmare for defenses. Get him lined up on a linebacker somewhere and forget it. There's no way you can keep up with this guy. And Johnny Richardson, I don't really usually watch recruiting highlight tapes too much, but I remember watching this kid's. And this guy, man, I thought he was going to be something special when he got here, and he's already getting a lot of rave reviews. He may be the future here at the running back position. Oh, by the way, Montavious Thompson looked phenomenal last year. Demarius Good, like you said, it's crazy. And the cool thing with the way our team is built, and we have so many guys, when we start blowing teams out, and in the second half, it's still fun to watch because the backups come in. These are the backups. These are the guys that are still running for 60-yard touchdowns. The wide receivers and the running backs, it doesn't get boring. Usually you're up by 5 touchdowns and you just hand the ball off 3 times and whatever. When we hand the ball off, these guys can all score at any point. So it's still a lot of fun. And I think we're going to see a lot of high-scoring games this year. Maybe not even because we're trying to blow people out. Just like you said, Johnny Richardson is just going to emerge from a group of people and take off for 50 yards. Mm-hmm. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to watch these guys.
Yeah, it's it's just going to be interesting because this, again, it's a free year. So these guys are all coming back next year without an eligibility year taken away from them. A couple of things to keep in mind. Darryl Mack ran the ball 41 times last year. So that's 41 carries potentially. I know we used to use that, the Mack truck package or whatever the heck they called it. He ran the ball 41 times. Brandon Wimbush had 11 carries as well. So those are carries that maybe get split back up. Dylan ran the ball 71 times. I don't know if you'll see that number again. AK, who obviously is now with Philadelphia, 87 rushes last year. So there are some carries to be split up. Last year, the attempts went like this. Otis had 113, McCrae 98, Killens and Thompson both had 87, and then it went down to the quarterbacks after that. So there are some carries to be split there. So we will see what Heupel does. But again, keep an eye on Demarius Good. I mean, he's a guy whose name has come up multiple times. Obviously he doesn't. I don't think he has the flash and the speed of Johnny Richardson, but he could be a guy whose name you hear and spot duty throughout the year. So. Let's find out. Also, I know he's a late addition, but this R.J. Harvey, he's got experience at quarterback. You just mentioned all the runs we had with Darryl Mack and Wimbush. Harvey may be this guy that comes in for the wild night package or whatever and is a threat to throw the ball, but also can run. He looks like a powerful runner too. He's the guy that McCrae was talking about with the quads. So he may be the guy that come in the short yardage package and be able to get you a few yards on the ground or even be a threat to swing it out there to Otis or somebody else. The offense is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be great. The only thing with Harvey, he's only 5'8", so he's 5'8", 190, so I don't know if that – Mac obviously was 6'5", so maybe that changed. But you're right, there's just so many options that they have on on the backfield. I literally don't envy hype because just between the receivers and the running backs we mentioned, how do you get all these guys touches and really kind of maximize their skill sets, particularly when, we start blowing guys out and we're up, by 35 at halftime and, you've only thrown one pass to Trey Nixon, it was a touchdown. One to Jalen Robinson, it was a touchdown. Two to Marlon, one was a touchdown. I mean, at this point, it could just get ridiculous. But all this obviously will come